Motherhood Incorporated proudly presents Military Mom Talk Radio live on TogiNet.com. Co-hosted by Robin Boyd and Sandra Beck, the owner of Motherhood Incorporated. Military Mom Talk Radio is here with a powerful platform for women to discuss their ideas, issues, and concerns with respect to the military lifestyle. Military Mom Talk Radio encourages you to share your experiences of being a military wife and mother. This show is dedicated to educating your family about the many resources that are available in both the public and private sector. And we'll be sharing helpful information from women all over the world. We'll cover everything military, from helping a family member cope with post-traumatic stress disorder, to navigating government programs dealing with family issues, to the struggles of deployment, along with being a working mother both in and out of the home. This is Military Mom Talk Radio, and here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
We're missing Robin Boyd today. Robin Boyd is volunteering in a soup kitchen in the local chapter of New Hampshire. So she is there running, I think she's running hot food today. I'm not exactly sure, but she's unable to be on the air with us today. And we are going to bring on another TogiNet host, Blythe Lipman. She's baby and toddler instructions. She's going to join me for the show today. And we've got some outstanding guests. We just have Dwight Zimmerman, who's the head of Military Writers Society of America, and he's going to talk to us about things that are going on in the Writers Society. It's so important that we preserve American history, we preserve our World War II veteran stories. We had Jeff Worthington on last week of the iHistory Project, and they are preserving World War II veteran stories in a very unique way. They are pairing high school students with World War II veterans, and our World War II veterans are dying at a rate of about 100 a day. So anything we can do to preserve those stories is a really wonderful thing, and to have high school students getting involved in this living history program is really an amazing thing, because history really comes alive as part of this video project. And one of the things that they're going to do with these video archives is put them in the Library of Congress. So I think it's a really exciting project, what we do with Military Writers Society of America in these iHistory programs to preserve living history, because, these stories die with us when we pass away. And so we're going to welcome John Zimmerman, and then after that, we are going to bring on Paula Domenici and Suzanne Best, and these are two really, really smart ladies that wrote a book called Courage After Fire for Parents of Service Members, Strategies for Coping When Your Son or Daughter Returns from Deployment. There's another author credited on the title, Keith Armstrong. He will not be with us today. The foreword was written by Senator Bob Dole, and one of the things that I really like about this book is that it deals with some of the unsung heroes. Blythe, do we have you today? Are you on the air with me?
I'm here.
There she is.
Can you hear
there
me?
she is.
Yay.
All the way from Arizona. I just love this technology.
Yeah.
I was just sharing with our listeners a little bit about the authors that we're going to have on, because they cover some of the unsung heroes of our war. And, we talk a lot about military families, and, there's a lot of information out there for the spouses. We're seeing more information come for deployment kids, really the needs of the children, Blythe, that join the military when mom or dad joins the military. And I think it's outstanding.
What about the grandparents, though?
Well, that's what this book is about. A lot of the grandparents I know are taking care of their grandchildren while one or both of their children are on deployment. So that's, to me, another unsung hero group. But then we've got these parents of service members. A lot of our service members are 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and they may or may not have they might have left mom and dad's house, to go off to war and come back to mom and dad's house. So I'm so excited today to talk to these two PhDs in putting this information together, because Blythe, you're on the air every week talking about family issues and helping parents of small children. You said something to me on the phone today about parenting never ends. And how old are your kids?
Oh, my goodness, 31 and 34. And it doesn't ever end. We always worry, but it's all relative because, the new parents that I deal with, their problems are big when their kids are little. But you know what? We never stop, do we?
We never stop. And this is the first valuable resource that I found that's really written to the parents of deployed service members. I know Marcella Stretch has a great group called PODS, Parents of Deployed Service Members, on Facebook, and it's a really, really strong, active group. I'm a member of it. If you're a parent of a deployed service member or an aunt or an uncle, somebody who is responsible, in a large part for our young men and women overseas, this is really, really a great group, and this is really a great book because I think parents will really benefit from the information in this book. We should have had it 10 years ago when the war started.
I am very excited about your guest because I was reading the bio about the book. My gosh, you're right. It should have been here 20 years ago. I mean, we don't even want to go back to Vietnam, but, there just isn't a lot there, and people don't think about what happened. It's scary.
It is, and we've got, we've had, issues with battle fatigue in World War II or combat stress. I forgot which word was attached to, which war. But, we see all these stories, and everywhere you turn around, you see post-traumatic stress disorder. But we really don't see a lot about the parents who are taking care of our returning service members. There's really not much covered out in the media.
It's funny because my books are Help My Baby Came Without Instructions and Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions. Maybe there ought to be a help book for parents because there aren't rules, and how do you know what to do? You want to tread softly. Your child just came home from a really terribly difficult place, and they may not be the same. What do you do?
What do you do? Right, Help My Soldier didn't come with instructions.
Yes, exactly. We can co-author it, Sandra.
There you go. Oh, I'm not writing it. You can get these smart people who study this stuff all day long. Because I really do think, when you're a parent and you watch your son and daughter go off to war, I think, there's not only you think about oh, how brave my kid is, oh, how wonderful this is. And then there's that huge component of I'm scared to death.
I can't even imagine. I mean, I just can't imagine. What every single day you get up. I worry when my kids are in the car every day. But when your child's, someplace so far away and you can't pick up a cell phone and say, what are you doing? I don't know. It's tough. You have to be strong. We're strong as parents, but it doesn't mean we don't worry.
Absolutely. And, that's one of the things that I love about this book because, they have a whole section called Struggles of the Spirit. And I read it, and I don't have, my kids are 6 and 9 right now. But it's interesting because they get into the moral struggles, the identity struggles, their spiritual struggles, and then even into the existential struggles, which makes people question, where are we? What are we doing? Who are we? Question your own existence. This is tough stuff when your kids come home. It's, hard enough without deployment, but throw a deployment on here, throw conflict situations, throw in some PTSD, a few TBIs. You've got some really big issues that are falling on the shoulders of our parents.
It's so true. And when do you know if they need the extra help, or when do you know if it's just normal? I mean, you don't.
Right, because what is normal? I'm going to go ahead and bring on Dwight Zimmerman a little bit early so that we have plenty of time. I noticed on our Facebook page we're starting to get some questions rolling in already. So let's bring on Dwight Zimmerman and find out what's going on with Military Writers Society of America.
Hello.
Do we have you? There you are.
Guys?
I recognize that voice. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for, again, having me on your show. It's such a delight to be here.
It is. It is. We'd love to have you on here because we have so many authors from Military Writers Society of America, and you guys do such great work. And our military writers that we have on today are, they came up with this cool thing about, a book for parents of service members.
Uh-huh. Yes.
So,
next week we're having our conference that starts on September 26th at Dayton and lasts until the 29th. And I am very excited about that. We have some excellent books that are candidates for awards, and it's just going to be fun. The first year that I attended it, I was, obviously just a member, but one of my books was up for an award, and just the fellowship and enthusiasm that I encountered with the members, and the fact that I also won a gold medal for my book, which was The Book of War. Well, that helped too. And so I obviously, things have developed there, and now I'm the president of the organization, and I have to say it is just such an honor to be in that position.
Now, what are some of the books that are offered up this year? I haven't seen the list. I'm sure I have it somewhere, some of the nominees. What are the different categories that you've explored as leader of this organization?
Well, what I'm happy to say is that the Military Writers Society of America has the most comprehensive awards category for military-themed material. We go from children's to historical fiction to thriller mystery, science fiction fantasy, literary fiction. I'm going down the list here, obviously. Regular history, memoir. That's really, our core. Memoir. Biographies, even how-to in business and spiritual, religious. It is just, I have just been so impressed with the wide variety of talent and depth of what the members have been able to produce.
That is so outstanding. I'm going to take us to commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to visit some more with the president of Military Writers Society of America. They're having their upcoming awards in Dayton, Ohio. When you come back, we're going to talk more about the offerings.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
In the annals of recorded history, there has never been anything that can compare to home movies. But now, in this modern era, where do you turn for the best information? Right here. It's the Home Movie Legacy Project, hosted by Rhonda Vigent. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central here on the Rockstar Radio Network. Learn how to organize, digitize, share on social media, use as genealogy research, repurpose, or even monetize found footage. Discover ways to find films about your own family that you didn't even know existed. Or create a documentary that can use the power of home movies to deliver a message that can impact the lives of many. For more on Rhonda and the show, go to our website, homemovielegacy.com. Then be here as the journey continues with the Home Movie Legacy Project with Rhonda Vigent. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central here on the Rockstar Radio Network.
It's time to devote time to yourself and strap yourself in for a fun, down-to-earth, enthusiastic, compassionate, easy-to-understand discussion on the unlimited ways you can be all that you want to be. Join us for B Institute Radio with Christine McKee on TogiNet Radio. Each week, Christine will have lively and open discussions and interviews, share stories and case studies, and hear from experts on the topic of the week. Christine, a registered psychologist from Australia and published author of Be by Design, How I Be Is Up to Me. Hosts lively discussions and interviews every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on the Toby.
Put a boot in your ass, it's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and a statue of liberty started shaking.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and Robin Boyd is off today. She's volunteering her time at a soup kitchen, and Blythe Lippman, the author of a couple books, Help My Baby Came Without Instructions, Help My Toddler Came Without. So parents, if you're looking for babies and toddlers, Blythe, when does your show air? Do we have Blythe? Okay, maybe we don't have Blythe. All right, well, we have Dwight Zimmerman. He's on the show with us today, and he's going to talk a little bit about the offerings that Military Writers Society of America has with respect to their children and young adult authors, because he says that they address some family issues. Okay, Dwight, are you there?
Here? Yeah. So, obviously we do have the typical history, memoir, personal stories, adult fiction, the military themes. They include, this year, Tom Clancy Presents Active Valor by Dick Couch, George Galderisi, and S.F. Weber, and another book, Buddy and Grace, and Black Horse Riders by Philip Keith. That's about Vietnam. But the part that I'm really happy about is, and this has been an ongoing thing, and not just this year, we have two categories that deal specifically with the children and families, because they are very much affected, obviously, as your audience knows. Just as much as the people wearing the uniform and going out in the field. And some of our authors have written some absolutely powerful material that address separation. We have Jesus the Honu by Kristen Barnes, Pickysaurus Mac by Sandra Miller Linhart, Spanky, a Soldier's Son, Lion's Pride, A Tale of Deployment, Miss You to Pieces, a deployment story and project idea for kids, which is very inventive. It's not just a book, it's interactive, all kinds. Donna Perky, the author of that, was very inventive in how she put together this whole package. For young adult, we have Butterfly Dust, Backcountry Fury, a 16-year-old patriot in the Revolutionary War, a piece of fiction, but getting kids to relate to that point of view in the war. Famous Dogs. We have a couple of animal books. It is so fascinating to see the different approaches that they all bring to this to help families connect.
That's so important. Do we have Blythe back? Blythe, are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. Oh, Dwight and Blythe.
Oh, there,
funny.
okay.
It sounds the same, Dwight and Blythe. Yeah, I'm here.
Yes,
Can you hear me
I'm
now?
sorry. My apologies.
This is really a new trend, don't you guys think? And Blythe, you know the baby and toddler instruction market fairly well, and Dwight, you know the Military Writers Society. I'm seeing a big push for books that are written to help not only the spouses, but now the children and the family members, the moms and the dads, as well as the grandparents. I think of that book, Deployment Kids, that came out a couple years ago. That was the only one I knew about. I think this is a new trend in publishing. I'd love your thoughts first, Blythe, and then over to Dwight. It does sound a lot alike.
It does sound alike our names, but there should be things for the kids. I mean, so many times, what happens to the service people that return and their kids were babies and now they're 3 or 4? I mean, just to have a story about it, or have a story about a dog that's going to make things happy. I mean, we have stories about potty training, about wearing shoes. I am so excited to hear about this.
It is. There's Daddy's Boots. There's a couple other ones. Or like breastfeeding and combat boots. That's another favorite of mine. Dwight, what about you? What do you see with respect to the military publishing with respect to books to help the children?
Okay, insofar as that specifically, I'm happy that, Sandra Miller Linhart has made a career of addressing that specific issue. She has Granny Boots, a series of children's books. Her latest is Pickysaurus Max, which is up for an award this year. And I have been very impressed overall with her high quality of work. On my side, I have, my material is more for the young adult market. In other words, the early teens, the preteens, where I wrote a graphic novel history of the Vietnam War and also a Civil War history biography of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Basically trying to engage them both in history and, in my case, but these people here, the authors up for awards this year, have really focused on the social issues, the impact of deployment with families, the separation, the angst. And actually, our organization, I'm proud and happy to say, is we have a history of authors who have consistently come forth with books on that theme. And I'll say again, their names: Kristen Barnes, Sandra Miller Linhart, Sue Leneve, Grace Ann Remy, Donna M. Perky. Anyone who wants to find out more can go to our website, which is mwsadispatches.com, and they can access the biography pages, the author pages, to find out about books, and then they navigate through and they can find out the specific things for the categories.
Which I think is really important, Dwight, because there's so many books out there. Like when you go on Amazon or you go on Barnes & Noble, it's almost overwhelming. And so, I like to start my search. If I'm looking for something, military related, I like to start with Military Writers Society of America. That's the what is it, M? I can't remember. MWSA. Dispatches. But I think that's really important because we funnel through and we get the award winners. And what I like about these authors too, especially like Sandra Miller Linhart, there's some that, these haven't been picked up a lot of times by huge national publishers yet, but that doesn't mean that their books are not fantastic. Some of these books that come across my desk from your organization, just by the nature of what they are, if you're a military family, if you're a military mom or dad or a grandparent and you're looking for ways to explain these things, it's really easy to go to this resource and find something that can help.
Well, you raised a very good point there. And it is something that I have railed about with my editors and publishers. The big houses, they are looking for the broadest range of audience, and as such, and the way that the market has gone, it has gone so crazy that they unfortunately, too many of the editors right now are in fear of their jobs. Where people have been laid off and everything like that. So naturally, they are going to go for the surefire thing, which winds up being the J.K. Rowling, the Stephen King. In other words, the Bill O'Reilly. I was fortunate to take Bill O'Reilly's Killing Lincoln and do the young adult adaptation of it called Lincoln's Last Days, because of my background and experience and having adapted adult books for the children's market and for doing it in the military side of things. But mine is a very unusual thing, and even then, it was just difficult. So people, looking for these kind of books should not be focused on the bestseller list because it's just not there. These are very issue-specific things, and they fill an important need. Another category we have are the spiritual religious, for instance. We have 3 authors up for awards. Larkin Spivey, Jocelyn Green, and Karen Whitting, they collaborated. Kim Cluxon Meredith. Stories of faith and courage from the Vietnam War. Stories of faith and courage from the home front. Listen for the whispers, coping with grief and learning to live again. Now, just from the titles alone, they're very evocative, they're thematic. I don't think I have to explain to your readers the way that I would have to explain to an editor in one of the big houses here in New York City why they are important.
Dwight, I have to chime in here a minute. Being an author myself, it's interesting because so many times I've picked up books that nobody's ever heard of, and I'm into book clubs, and we end up reading them and talking about them. So you're right. You know what? The big houses do publicize the big authors, and the little authors sometimes are left behind, but not on purpose. And then when you find the little author with something that just hits you, I mean, we can Google anything. You can put the silliest thing in Google, and you may find that book that's just going to hit what you want at that minute, talking about military, talking about children of military families. So, we're all different, and we're all looking for different things.
Yeah, I'm looking at another book on our awards list, 30 Days with My Father, Finding Peace from Wartime PTSD by Crystal Presley. It's a memoir, and of this daughter and her struggles with her father, who has his own struggles.
Oh, you guys, I got to cut you off. Guys, I got to cut you off. This has been a great segment. I want to recommend that you check out our president here at mwsadispatches.com. It's a great place to go for military reads. When we come back from the break, we're going to welcome Dr. Paula Domenici and Dr. Suzanne Best, and we're going to talk about courage after fire for parents of service members.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Get the competitive edge and take your success to the next level with the Gold Medal Success Show and your host, Forrest Fisher, 6-time U.S. National Gold Medalist. Tune in every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Central, 6 Pacific here on the Rockstar Radio Network as Forrest gives you access into the mindset of true champions and helps you apply these success principles to your life and business for immediate results. Each show will feature guest athletes and business experts who have achieved tremendous success and are ready to share their stories of struggle, glory, tragedy, and triumph, revealing tips and strategies Forrest and these guest experts use to propel themselves to world-class success. Many people live their whole lives wanting more. The Gold Medal Success Show will demonstrate that anyone can have a more fulfilling and satisfying life when they put a few basic principles into play. Make every day game day with the Gold Medal Success Show each Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Central here on the Rockstar Radio Network. Have you been laid off, fired, downsized, right-sized, or re-engineered out of a job? Are you unemployed or anticipate that possibility? Then tune in for Successfully Unemployed, hosted by Alan Sherwood, MBA, president of Sherwood Consulting Service. Successfully Unemployed will provide you a hope-filled and comprehensive approach to the job search process from an author who's experienced it all. Alan and his guests will cover all dimensions of a job search: physical tasks, mental attitude, emotional health, even one's spiritual perspective. All must be integrated in order for a person to be successfully unemployed so they can then be successfully employed. This show is designed to help you move forward from job loss to finding or creating more fulfilling work. For more on Alan Sherwood, MBA, and the show, check out his website, successfullyunemployed.com. Then join us for Successfully Unemployed with Alan Sherwood, MBA. Thursday nights at 8, 7 Central here on TogiNet.com.
'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com, covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and Robin Boyd is volunteering at a soup kitchen today, and our stand-in fantastic host is Blythe Lipman. She has her own show on this network, Baby and Toddler Instructions. She's the author of 2 books that can be found on Amazon. Help My Baby Came Without Instructions, Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions. She's helped me a lot over the years. For those of you that missed the first half of the show, we were visiting with Dwight Zimmerman, and he is the president of Military Writers Society of America, and for specialized books that are dealing with military issues, military family, military situations, you can check out MWSA, like Military Writers Society of America, dispatches.com. You can also listen to this broadcast along with our other broadcasts on iTunes under Military Mom Talk Radio. We can also be found on our website, the .com by the same name, militarymomtalkradio.com. And of course, you can go to our host station in Texas, and we want to thank Karina and Eric and Casey and Kevin and everybody over there that helps put this show together for the military family at toginet.com. All right, there is my public service announcement. Let's move over to our guests. We're welcoming today Dr. Paula Domenici and Dr. Suzanne Best. They have written an outstanding book. I'm so thrilled to bring this to the airwaves today, you guys, because there are so many needs of the ancillary military family, you know, beyond the children of the service member, beyond the service member themselves. You know, we've got a whole untapped, unsung hero group in our parents of deployed service members. And I know our pods group on Facebook, over 1,000 strong, are listening today. And we're just so happy, Paula and Suzanne, about the book you wrote. So I'm going to go to Paula first, and I'm going to ask Paula, why this book? Why is it important that this book be written?
Well, we had written an earlier book that was for the service members themselves and family members in general. And over time, what we discovered in our work with veterans and service members is that there really is this gap in resources for the parents, as you just noted. We did some searches. We looked to see if there were any other resources out there, and there were very few. And so with the 2 wars going on in Iraq and Afghanistan, it kind of amplified our attention to this population, which we feel like is very neglected. And we felt like it would be a good service to provide them with this resource.
That is really amazing. Suzanne, I'm going to go to you right now. And Paula, I'm going to ask you to turn your mic down. We've got a little bit of a reverb here. Suzanne, how was it writing a book with 3 different people? You've got Paula Domenici, Suzanne Best, and Keith Armstrong. And are you guys in all different parts of the country, or are you guys near each other?
No, we couldn't be spread out any further, actually. And that's actually the wonderful part of it, is that we're spread out across the country. Keith is actually in San Francisco. I'm up in Portland, Oregon, and Paula's in Washington, D.C. And it's nice for us to be able to bring different perspectives, and we all work with different groups of people in different settings, but all military and their families. And so it was nice for us to be able to come together and write this book. And we just tend to write bits of different pieces and then pass them along to each other. And then we each add to that. And it's really a wonderful process.
Well, and I think what I like about this, and we saw this, Robin and I, and we also have had, guests from all over the world. It's interesting when you start seeing the trends. It doesn't matter whether you're in Florida or Afghanistan or Okinawa. People are experiencing the same things. Blythe, you have a question.
Suzanne, I have a question. How long did it take you to write a book with 3 authors? Because it's just great, and I can't imagine doing it with 3 people. I have my own books, and I would have loved to have other people helping me. Maybe the next book.
Well, Paula, maybe.
But how long did it take you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I believe yes, I believe it took us this particular book. I'm trying to remember. 8 months, 9 months to write the entire book.
But we started working on the idea as far back as 2010.
Right.
Wow. You know what? It takes a lot. Did you have a lot of surprises? I know when I was writing my book, some things would come up and I'd go, "Well, I didn't think of that," or, "You know what? I have to add this to the book. It's so important. I didn't think about this," because your book is great.
Probably the hardest part was limiting the topic, because originally we thought we might focus on during deployment as well as post-deployment. And we just found that would be too much to cover.
Well, it's a lot. I mean, I'm going to ask everybody on the air today to turn your volumes down if you have volumes up. The section that I liked a lot, there were 2 sections in particular. One was the one that talked about like the anger issues, alcohol, staying safe, the drug use. I can't tell you guys how many parents have contacted us saying, their son or daughter is exhibiting some of these things. And I love that you hit the problem behaviors and that you gave some solutions, like the set limits, be vigilant about violence, managing your reactions. Not only is this a book that raises awareness, but it also gives us some really good chances at recognizing what we're seeing. And for those parents listening today, one of the questions that came up before the show was talking about anxiety, like what is too much, what is normal worry, what's, anxiety, and what's, kind of off the chart. When do you get help? As healthcare professionals, and I'm going to go to Suzanne, when you talk about all these things that they all go together. You've got depression, you've got panic attacks, you've got anxiety, you've got, a lot of different problem behaviors that are coupled then by substance abuse, whether they're treating themselves or treatment got out of hand. Where do you start? That was one of the questions that just came in. I've got a son that's come back exhibiting a lot of these things. Where do they start?
Yes, and that is such a good question. And when a veteran or a service member enters my therapy office, I start by just asking them what is interfering with your life most right now. Is it your sleep? Is it anxiety? Is it depression? What right now is getting in the way of your being able to interact with your family, be out in the world, and accomplish the things that you want to on a day-to-day basis. And so sometimes the best place to start is the place that the veteran or service member really is finding to be the most problematic for them. So it's not for me to choose and decide necessarily what is most important.
Now, when you have an adult son or daughter living in your house, and, this is another anecdotal story that came in through our social media while we're on the air. We've got parents that have had to call the police on son or daughter. We've had issues in court with son and daughter with some of these behaviors. How does a parent what advice do you give a parent in those situations when they're trying to get a son or daughter into help and they either don't recognize that's a problem, they don't want to admit there's a problem, or they're in such a state that, you've got siblings like this lady that's writing in. She's got, teenage children at home and a 19-year-old son who has a lot of issues.
Suzanne, do you want to answer that?
Oh, okay, certainly. Well, really what we tried to emphasize in the book is that safety comes first. And that means safety for parents, safety for their other children. And so the first thing you need to do is be sure that you are taking care of yourself and the rest of your family and ensuring your own safety. Once that's established, then yes, it can be very difficult to motivate returning service members to seek help, even when they're really in desperate need. And so one thing that needs to happen is to be able to mobilize as much support as possible from the communities, to be able to hook your service member up with other returning veterans who might be of assistance and support, and to really reach out to as many resources as you can in the community. Because sometimes they don't want to hear it from their parents or even from their spouses. And so sometimes the best thing you can do is find other veterans that can help provide assistance.
I think that's really valuable to try to enlist, the help of their buddies or their girlfriends in that situation. What I'd like to talk about, we've got just a couple minutes before we go to break. I would like to talk about your best piece of advice for a military parent that is struggling with a child. Do you recommend, if they can't get that child into counseling, do you recommend that the parent go?
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of parents.
Yeah, that would help.
Certainly. Yes, I've seen a lot of parents come in because, the parents are impacted significantly, and the first thing they need to do is really to help themselves before they can provide the best support possible for their service member children. So I've actually seen a number of parents through a pro bono organization here in the Portland area, and there are a number of these across the country. The one that I provide services through is called Returning Veterans Project, but there are others that you're probably familiar with, such as let's see.
You know what, Suzanne, I'm going to ask you to hold that. I'm going to take us to commercial break. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about taking good care of ourselves as we care for our service members. Our guests today are Dr. Paula Domenici and Dr. Suzanne Best, and we don't want to leave out the third author, Keith Armstrong. The book is Courage After Fire for Parents of Service Members, Strategies for Coping When Your Son or Daughter Returns from Deployment. More after the break.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Evermore, people have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. These are the words of Dr. Viktor Frankl, the inspiration for the movie Victor and I. That's VIKTOR and imovie.com. And Talk Sense Radio, The Meaning Connection, with host Mary Simaluka and frequent contributor Alexander Vesley. Friday afternoons at 3, 2 Central on TogiNet.com. More and more people today are discarding their quest for money, possessions, and things, and are instead beginning a serious quest to find meaning in life. Until now, these discussions were historically in the hands of priests, ministers, and scribes, then to philosophers, psychiatrists, and psychologists. Now, these deep discussions are where they should be, in the hands of individuals, on the air with you. Talk Sense Radio, The Meaning Connection, with your host, Mary Simaluka, and frequent contributor, Alexander Vesley. Friday afternoons at 3, 2 Central on TogiNet.com.
Mobile is the future, and the future is now. Listen in each week, Tuesdays 4 to 5 Central, to Brilliant Mobile Marketing with your host, Mobile Mary, as we simplify the hottest marketing channel, mobile marketing, and share secrets on how you can use mobile to be more brilliant, be more profitable, and have more fun in your industry. Join us each week to learn from brilliant business leaders on how to simply and easily capture a list of raving fans and turn them into loyal customers. This show will help business owners, authors, and speakers realize their own brilliance by tapping into the insights of fellow brilliant business leaders. We will also showcase brilliant tools, both traditional and digital, that will make you more brilliant in everything you do. Don't miss your date with Brilliant Mobile Marketing and your host, Mobile Mary, America's mobile marketing expert, as she shares her success strategies every Tuesday from 4 to 5 Central on the Rockstar Radio Network.
We'll put a boot in your ass, it's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and a statue of liberty started shaking.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Blythe Lipman. She's filling in for Robin Boyd, and our guests today are Dr. Paula Domenici and Dr. Suzanne Best. They've written a great book called Courage After Fire for parents of service members, strategies for coping when your son or daughter returns from deployment. Before we went to break, Paula was talking a little bit about it was Suzanne. Suzanne, you were about to give us some resources for family members.
Yes, I just wanted to mention briefly that there are a number of organizations across the country, and I'm part of one of them, where we are therapists out in the community that provide pro bono services to returning veterans and their family members. And through those, a great number of parents are seen who would not otherwise be able to receive services. One of the biggest groups that's across the nation is called Give an Hour, and you can just look up giveanhour.com, I believe. And then the other one is So Far, is one of the bigger groups that you can find online, and they provide wonderful services.
And Blythe, you had a question about moms having difficulty coping when their son or daughter comes back. Can I have you throw that over to Suzanne before we go to Paula?
Yes, Suzanne, I was wondering if mom or dad are having a hard time dealing with the difficulties that their child is having, does it help for them to share it and say, you know what, I'm having such a tough time dealing with this, I'm going to get some help, or is that something that would anger the child more or shame them? How do you know what to do? Or do you just go get the help and then act differently?
Well, I mean, every situation is different, and it depends a great deal on the type of communication that you have with your child. But sometimes it is good to be able to model for your child that it's okay to ask for help. And so to be able to say, you know what, I'd really love to help you, but I don't even know how to help myself at this point. And so I'm going to go seek help outside, and hopefully I'll get information that will be able to help us both.
Oh, what a great answer. What a great answer. You guys seem to have a lot of answers in this book. And what I like about this book, it's really a toolkit. A lot of our family members are really far away from VA services, especially, those that live in New Mexico and some of the more rural states that, it can be a couple hundred miles to get to the VA. So there's lots of resources in here. I'd like to talk to Paula for a minute about what is unique about this book, and how did you get this information together? What are some of the things that motivated you and made the decision maker for including some of this really powerful information?
Well, one of the most unique things about the book is that parents can pick it up and read just a chapter that might pertain to their particular situation. So in that regard, they don't have to go through the whole book, and they can get help related to what they're most concerned about. Another thing that we incorporated are parent quotes. So we had a parent survey that we did online where we got feedback from parents in the shoes of individuals like who would read the book, and they explained some of their struggles and how they coped. And so we introduce a lot of the chapters and weave these quotes in throughout the book that I think help make the mothers and fathers who read it feel validated and normalized and like they can relate. We also have sample scripts in the book for like how to start a conversation with your son or daughter if you're concerned about them. Not that we think the mother or father should use the script verbatim, but at least it gets them thinking about how they would word a question or broach the subject. So in that regard, I feel like it's very hands-on. It has a lot of practical information that can be applied to all sorts of parents.
Well, and I love these quotes. I want to read a couple, like one that particularly I've heard this many times before, and you hit it right in chapter 2. It's been a tough transition, says Olivia. He's trying to find work and having trouble adjusting to life here again. Man, that sums up 90% of the letters we get in at Military Mom Talk Radio. Are young men and women coming back to no jobs and then finding it hard to adjust to life again. I mean, you just hit that one right on the head.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting when we started getting the surveys back and looking at the quotes and then relating it back to our own clinical work and what we know about the field. A lot of the testimonies really encapsulated what we kind of have heard or know. So it was great to have them there to kind of crystallize the topics that are going to be in that respective chapter.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I like that, you cover so much. I'm just going to take a minute here to talk about some of the things that you talk about. I mean, you talk about, issues that relate to, the physical injuries, the TBIs. We've got pain management issues. We've got integrative care. We've got the big question is, how do you know if it is a TBI? That's very nonspecific. A lot of people write in asking us questions about that. And it's, there's so many things that there just really isn't a resource out there. And you guys put together a very, very comprehensive resource in the back of your book. And Suzanne, I'd like you to touch a little bit on that.
Well, that was really, I wish Keith were here because that was the piece that he really worked hard to put together. And it's just, that the issue is, and I found this at the National Guard meetings that I've attended here for the state in Oregon, is that there are a lot of resources out there, but they seem to be very scattered and it's very difficult to pull them all together. And so Keith did a lot of work just reaching out to different communities and agencies and trying to get all the information he could and pull it into one place and actually organize it. So what he did, it's almost like he put together a clearinghouse of information for parents and also information that's specific to the veterans themselves. And it's really a wonderful resource.
It is. It is. One of the numbers I'm going to read today that I saw right away that I love that you put in here is the caregiver support line. That's a hotline, a crisis line. The caregiver support line, I think, is apropos for our military parents. It's 1-855-260-3274. Again, that's 1-855-260-3274. I want to circle back a little bit to the caregivers, and I love that that's how it's put, because a caregiver can be an aunt, it can be an uncle, it can be a stepmom, it can be a biological mother and dad, or it can be an older brother and sister, because we see a lot of that happening. Can you guys talk a little bit about your best advice for our listeners today, who we've got a lot of pods on there, parents of deployed service members, about how to take care of themselves as a caregiver? Because that goes against our nature. We want to do everything for our service members and their families, but we all know that leads to burnout. Suzanne?
I think one of the...
Go ahead, Paula, actually.
I think one of the key steps is to begin to give themselves permission to get their own help. That there is so much of giving and self-sacrifice. It's almost like the parents take on a lot of the values that the military members carry themselves, and a sense of guilt if they feel like they need to take care of themselves. when indeed we know that if they can better care for themselves, they can be a better caregiver. Giving themselves permission to do that. And it starts with them really, frequently kind of taking what we describe in the book, a temperature reading of how they're doing physically and emotionally and mentally. How is their well-being this week? And if they're noting signs that they're not doing well or they're struggling, that they actually have a voice and they seek help, whether it's with a friend or someone from their church or another parent, but they give themselves the permission to kind of express how they're feeling.
Well, and especially before it's too late, we get a lot of people that write into us about feeling like they're drowning. And I think you hit the nail on the head with one of these quotes where it says, I'm still working on compassion fatigue. I'm better at saying, no, that doesn't work for me right now, or let me think on it and I'll get back to you. As parents, we have compassion fatigue on a good day, but when you add in, the needs of a service member, especially somebody who might have a physical injury or what you call a spiritual or emotional injury. I mean, we all know when our young men and women go to war, they do not come back the same and everything has to shift. Can Paula, you talk a little bit about, we've got only a couple minutes to break, about how best a parent can adjust to a new normal?
I think, as you said, service members come home changed, and we also know that the loved ones who support them during their deployments also change. And so for mothers and fathers to, again, be flexible in how they judge not only like their critique maybe others or their service members, but to not be harsh on themselves with respect to changes that they see in their belief system that have occurred as a result of this process, that it's normal for them to have different ways of viewing themselves and the world, their child, to see things different spiritually, and that it doesn't always have to be bad. Those changes can be good, that, despite the difficulty or the hardships that have occurred and the change in thinking, that sometimes it can bring greater meaning to their life. Suzanne, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Well, I absolutely agree with that. And to really sort of take stock of who you are currently and how you're being impacted currently by your service member and your relationship with your service member, and to really be thoughtful about what are my beliefs now and how am I different and how can I now take that difference, and as Paula said, really go with that and grow with that and make the most of it.
Oh, you guys, I want to thank you so much for being our guests today. I want to thank first Blythe Littman for stepping in and co-hosting with me at the last minute. As always, it's been a pleasure. Paula Domenici and Suzanne Best and the Keith Armstrong, who's with us today in spirit, I want to thank you for the time and effort. I can tell this took a lot of work to put together. The book is Courage After Fire for Parents of Service Members, Strategy for Coping When Your Son or Daughter Returns from Deployment. Look it up. It's a good read.